The AFC is one of the worst divisions in the National Football League. This may give the Colts a chance to go ahead and take the division crown for the first time since, 2013, 14? It's been quite some time since the Colts actually won the crown. You look at this division top down, you see some teams have some really nice things going for them. Some teams are a bit of an underdog. And the Colts, they're in this really weird state where they're just unpredictable. You have no clue how they're going to do next season. They could win 4 or 5 games, or they could win 9 or 10. In my opinion, either way is possible. And a lot is going to have to go right if the Colts want to win 9+ games. And that's why I don't think the Colts win the division, but it's fun to talk about the scenario and why the Colts maybe could pull it off. So, first off, we have to talk about the competition and who else is in the division. Of course, we got the Jaguars, Titans, Texans, right? Team that won it last year was the Jacksonville Jaguars at 9-8. They were 9-8 last year, and the Titans were 7-10 in second place. It just goes to show how weak the division is. Winning it at 9-8, second place 7-10. A lot of divisions you will finish second 9-8, or maybe third at 7-10, maybe fourth in some. So it goes to show how weak the division is. And so the Jaguars. It all starts with Trevor Lawrence. He took a nice step up last year. Problem was his consistency. He's had a problem with stringing games together, stringing quarters together, halves. In the Chargers game, it's like, it was a perfect example of that. In the first half, it was, what is Trevor Lawrence doing? He's playing horrible. What is going on? Second half, he was unstoppable. He was incredible. So if Trevor Lawrence can find that, ground where he's at least solid 90% of the time, the Jaguars are going to be a good football team. He's got good weapons. He's got Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley. Who else does he have? He has Zay Jones, Jamal Agnew's a speedster, Evan Ingram. Then you have Travis Etienne at running back, and he's a threat in the passing game and run game. He's very dynamic. You have Tank Bigsby Jr. I think that was a nice little draft pick. The O-line is good, but it's not great. But it's good enough to, get some of these dynamic weapons open quick. Christian Kirk's a deep threat. A deep threat. Zay Jones can go up and get it with, he's a big body type of guy. There's a lot of really good weapons in this team, so there's no reason why Trevor Lawrence cannot take advantage in this offense. Be maybe a top 12 unit. They have all the means necessary. They have a very good quarterback sometimes. And if Trevor Lawrence can take that right step into being more consistent, then this Jaguars football team is going to win the division. They may even win it with, Trevor Lawrence being on and off, because they're a solid football team and this division is just that bad. But the second place, the team that finished second place last year was the Tennessee Titans. So the Titans, right, Derrick Henry, he can't do it forever. But this year you're going to have Tajay Spears and Hassan Haskins. I think those are two really nice options to take some of the load and some of the pressure off of Henry. They're not Henry, but Henry, at the end of the day, Henry can't do it all. Henry can't do this forever. And I think adding Will Levis in the second round was a nice pick. You're going to push Ryan Tannehill to have to, it's not just going to be, Ryan Tannehill has it. No, it's going to be, Ryan Tannehill has to beat Will Levis out, which I think he will. I think Ryan Tannehill is going to start season. I don't think that was ever the question for me. Question is, can Ryan Tannehill make do with what he has? The offensive line is better. It's not great. It's better than last season. You have Peter Skoronski. You have some nice pieces on that offensive line. Tight end, who do you have there? Wide receivers, who do you have there outside of Treylon Burks? Even then, he's not proven. He's had some injury issues. So there's a serious question and doubt in the Titans' weapons, playmakers. Do they have any? Treylon Burks, if he could take that next step, I think Burks can be that guy. But then again, even if Burks shows out, you still need other guys that can show out. You can't just have one player, one playmaker. It makes it harder on the quarterback and the rest of the weapons. You need guys that can make plays on a consistent basis. They don't have those guys. Treylon Burks isn't even that guy yet. So who else? But their defense, right? Their defense is what I want to talk about next. They could win games purely off of their defense. Their defense is incredible. They have DeMeco Autry, former Colt. He's been very good for them. Jeffrey Simmons is my number 3 defensive tackle in the league. Probably Dexter Lawrence following him at 4. You have probably Aaron Donald, Chris Jones ahead of him. That's it. And you have Jeffrey Simmons, your Dexter Lawrence, and then maybe you could throw in your DeForest Buckner, Colts. But point being, this Tennessee Titans defense is incredible. It's dynamic. They have a pass rush. They have corners. The corners, Christian Fulton showed a lot of promise last year. Roger McCreary is a nice slot option. I think he's a slot receiver. He may be an outside. They may have played him outside much, but I think he's an all right receiver or an all right cornerback nonetheless. Caleb Farley isn't one of your starting guys, but I'm trying to look here. I did write guys down. You have Sean Murphy Bunting. That's another cornerback that was a solid cornerback for the Buccaneers. Harold Landry, another guy on the defensive line. Arden Kay. Curtis Brooks was a really nice addition. It didn't really work out with the Colts. I think the Colts should have gave him a chance, but coming out of college, he was an explosive athlete and has a lot of nice traits that you look for in defensive tackle. And I thought it was a steal for the Colts. Apparently not. It just didn't work out. So in the safety room, you have Kevin Byard and you have Amani Hooker. Those are two solid safeties. This is a really nice defense, and they're going to win games alone because of their defense. Because of their defense alone. So, but do I think the Titans are going to be the best team in the division? No, because you need a degree of offense. You won't get very far if you have one of the best defenses but a very poor offense. The Jaguars were a rare exception to this back in 2017. Their offense was pretty poor, but their defense was top notch. It was like an all-time defense kind of. And, the Broncos are another one where the offense wasn't really the best. You're really looking for an exception when your defense is great and your offense isn't. Or at least average or good or competent. You need an offense that's at least above average if you want to compete. Maybe average if you want to win the AFC South. With that defense, I could see them giving every team in the AFC South problems, but what if there's that one game where the defense has a bad game, or the defense isn't good every game? This is an offensive league. You need to put up points. You need to be able to play offense to win football games. That's even before the offensive age. You need to be able to put up points, but it's now more meaningful than ever. So Titans, their offense is just so bad. Their line is below average still. Their playmakers are, it's probably the worst receiver room in the NFL. One of the worst, if not the worst. No playmakers outside of Burks, which you really don't know much of. Yeah, you have Henry, but I do like Tajay Spears. He really adds to that a little bit. I like Hassan Haskins. So there's something there with the running back group, but other than that, there's a lot to be proven. And then you move on to the Houston Texans. They were 3-13-1 last year. That one in that tie coming with the Colts, they were pretty bad last year, and they have been pretty bad for quite some time. They did have a few years there with Deshaun Watson where they really picked it up a little bit, and do they do that with C.J. Stroud? A lot of people look at the Texans and they're like, yeah, the Texans are going to be the Texans, just like they are every year. And, a lot of people are going to say C.J. Stroud has no weapons, he has no offensive line. I disagree. I think this offensive line is okay. I think the weapons are okay. Are there anything to write home about and be like, yeah, it's top 10? No. But I think it's going to be enough of a situation for C.J. Stroud to make something. And you have a great coach. That's a lot of it as well. You need a coach who's going to motivate and instill discipline and fear. Not a bad fear, but a good fear and stress into these players so they play well, so they have some kind of, urge and drive. That needs to come with them, but the coach also has an impact on that and whether, they can believe in the leader or not. If you don't believe and think the leader can do it, then you're not going to do it. You're not going to care. So that's half the battle. That's half of the, important stuff, the meat and the potatoes, really. But C.J. Stroud, I think he's going to be all right. I'm not a big fan of C.J. Stroud. I think I wasn't really a huge fan of many of the quarterbacks coming out this year. I wasn't even crazy on Anthony Richardson with some of his, decision making and completion percentages, but there are a few things you look into there, and it's kind of adjusted. It's kind of like, okay, this happened. This is no, you can't include that into evaluations too much. A little bit, yeah. Like you looked at the situation, Richardson's receivers were okay. We're getting off topic. We're getting off topic, but they also have Dalton Schultz at tight end. Wide receivers, they have Robert Woods, Nico Collins, and Nathaniel Dell, John Mechie. No, I think Mechie's with another team. I think it's Jameson Williams. It's one of those teams. Let me see. One of those players. I'm mixing it up. Let's see. I'm just going to look it up. We're all human. We forget. I forget, man. Houston Texans depth chart. Let's see who that receiver is that I'm mixing up. The depth chart, Houston Texans depth chart. It is John Mechie. Jameson Williams is on the Lions. I always confuse those two. I don't know why. But nonetheless, the Texans are an underrated team. And their defense, while I have their depth chart pulled up here, it's a little easier to keep on looking up. They have Will Anderson Jr. That was a nice addition. They gave up a lot. That's where I question. You really gave up a lot for a non-quarterback. The amount you gave up is, you would trade up for a quarterback if you're giving up that much. They got an edge rusher. It's a very key position, but it's not a quarterback. Quarterback is in its own category of a premium position, if you ask me. Malik Collins, Sheldon Rankins in the middle, not bad. They have Byron Cowart and Hassan Ridgeway in the back low there. Taylor Stallworth. Seems like they have a lot of former Colts in that interior defensive line group. That speaks to the Colts' depth at their defensive line right now as well. Jerry Hughes enjoyed a really nice season last year. Chase Winovich, he's nice. Derek Rivers. The defensive line is nice. Denzel Perryman's going to get you tackles, going to fill lanes. He's not going to be anything incredible, but he's going to get the job done. Christian Kirksey, Christian Harris, Henry Toto. I can't say his name, but he's a guy I think is a Bama linebacker. He could be something. Neville Hewitt, he's not a linebacker. Jacob Martin. And then you look at the corners in the secondary, Steven Nelson, Shaquille Griffin, Derek Stingley, Desmond King. And then you look at their safeties, they have Jimmy Ward. And who I think is going to be a superstar and people are going to really look at as a superstar for next year is Jalen Petrie. Did not expect Jalen Petrie to come on as fast as he did last year, but Petrie was incredible. And I think he's going to take another step forward this year, having a better defensive line, a better coach, a better system put in place. I don't see why the Texans are one of those teams that the people are still crapping and shitting on. The Texans are a solid football team. They have some nice pieces put in place. They do. Now, there are a few questions here and there. Is the receiver room enough? Is their offensive line going to be enough? I think so. I think it's going to be okay. And I think you need to look at the Texans as a more serious team. Are they going to be great? Are they going to win 10, 11 games? Probably not. Are they going to win 8, 9 games? Maybe. Honestly, I could see it. They're a good football team. And now they have a good coach. So people need to look at the Texans, and just because of their past, they need to realize that this team is talented. This roster is talented. You need to dig a little bit and look into it. Texans are a nice football team. And last but not least, it's time to talk about our Indianapolis Colts and why maybe or maybe not they win the AFC South. Thing is, the Colts are so damn unpredictable. They have so many questions and so many things that need to go right. You have a new system being put in place. You have Shane Steichen. You have Anthony Richardson, Josh Downs. You have a lot of new playmakers and a lot of nice playmakers already there. Michael Pittman, Pierce, Taylor, Zach Moss is all right. You drafted Evan Hull to be more of a receiver type guy. You have a few tight ends, Jelani Woods. Offensive line was really bad last year. The Will Fries experiment did not go, or the Denny Pinner experiment at the right guard position did not bod well. It was just really a down year for the entire team. I think Frank Reich lost the locker room. Once as a leader, once a head coach loses the locker room, it's kind of like, man, it's not really, it just doesn't work. It goes downhill, falls off a cliff, and that's what the Colts did. And that's another product of having a new quarterback every year. It's one thing having that leader off the field, and it's another thing finding that stability to have that leader on the field. So some questions there, and I think they have a nice roster all around. They really do. It's just there's too many questions. We need to see it hit the field. We need to see if they could put it together, because that's been their issue. Last 2 years, I really hyped the Colts up. I'm like, yeah, they're going to be a good football team. And now I'm coming to my senses and realizing that sometimes you need to step back and put your emotions to the side and realize that this team may not be as cohesive as we thought. Maybe they have talent, but they just haven't put it together. The offensive line, we'll see if they can make a little comeback there. If they have a comeback year. Cornerback room, it's so inexperienced. Yeah, Isaiah Rodgers is a nice cornerback too. Is he a cornerback one? I don't think so. And a lot of people may not be happy with me about that, but there's a reason why the Colts went out and drafted Julius Brents. There's a reason why they went and drafted Darius Rush. You need more corners, and they got it. And I think both of these corners are good. Issue is they're so inexperienced. I think Jalen Jones was a nice pick. Daniel Scott was a nice pick. You had a lot of really good picks in this draft, but the thing is, you have to see what they're going to do on the field before you count your chickens. But you can't count your chickens before they're hatched. You have to be careful with that game, and that's the trap I fell in over the last 2 years. Not going to happen again. If I'm going to get excited about this team, they're going to have to prove it to me. And, Anthony Richardson, yeah, he's really talented, man, but, coming from, the SEC, yeah, that's probably the closest you're going to get to NFL speed, talent, and that kind of stuff. But the NFL is still a different game. You still have faster, stronger guys. The game is much faster. And with him having only 13 starts in his college career, 12 in 2022, makes you question: how long is it going to take him to catch up with that speed? Now, being as dynamic as a runner and being that type of player, that buys time for him to learn to pass, to learn how to pass it, to learn how to read defenses. That buys him time. That buys any quarterback time. Do you think if Justin Fields was able to move, do you think if Justin Fields couldn't move, you think he'd still be on the Bears? Do you think he'd still probably be on the team for being a high pick, but do you think people would have as much patience? Absolutely not. Do you think if a guy like Brock Purdy stepped in right away, he didn't play well, you think people would give him, would be like, yeah, okay, let's give him a second chance? No one would say that. They would want Trey Lance in there because he has that running ability on top of, his, what maybe he could do. And I think with that, this Colts offense is going to be very hard to game plan for in the first couple of weeks. When you have a quarterback like Anthony Richardson, you have a new head coach, a new system being put in place. It's very difficult. It's not on film. And it's going to take a few weeks for teams to get sufficient film to say, hey, maybe we could do this. Hey, Richardson can't do this. Let's do this so he can't. So, to make it more difficult on him. And ultimately, that's going to test Anthony Richardson and see if he's going to adjust. But I think it's going to take some time. I think the first few weeks, Anthony Richardson, this Colts team is going to look really good. And then I think they're going to come down to earth and be like, yeah, this team's been a bit inexperienced. They're not. And I think the Colts season is maybe going to start the opposite way of how it has been. Very different. It's unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't have a quarterback that's been in the league for 15 years of Philip Rivers or Matt Ryan. You don't have a question mark in Carson Wentz. You have a guy that no one knows not a damn thing about and how he's going to look in Shane Steichen's system. And nonetheless, like I said, you look at the rest of the team, it's a good team. We need to see it put forth first, though. We need to see those chickens hatch before we say, yes, we got them. Yes, there we go. This team is a good football team. No. They need to prove it to me. And I think we all should have a similar mindset. But that's the beauty of football. We all think differently. So I want you guys to let me know what you think. Do you think the Colts can win the AFC South? I don't think so. I think there's too many questions. And the schedule is not easy. Oh, wait. Is it an easy schedule? I don't remember if it's a very easy one or a very difficult one. Let's look at that. NFL strength of schedule. Even looking at strength of schedule, I don't believe in strength of schedule. And as I'm looking it up and going to look into it, we have the 29th easiest schedule. Actually, whatever we want to take, fourth easiest. You have Atlanta Falcons have the easiest, Saints have the next, the Texans, then the Colts. But I don't necessarily believe in that because teams change every year. Everything changes. So much changes that you can't base a team fully off of last year. Yeah, maybe you could say, hey, they've made this change, they've made that change, they're going to be better. But at the end of the day, every team is so much different in the way they play, the way they train. So much changes that you can't just say, yes, they're going to be what they were last year. No, it's just not. I don't believe in looking at strength of schedule, even though I just did. A lot of people do that. So, and I see why. You want to see, maybe this team has a better chance than another team. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter unless you have a Patrick Mahomes, a Josh Allen, or Joe Burrow. There's not going to be much change. There's not, and there's just so much that goes into a new team every year. There's so many different players. There's a different coach, maybe a different system that coach is trying to put in. Maybe a new offensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator. There are so many. Maybe there's not much depth, and then a guy or two gets hurt. There's so many different factors going into it. You can't say they have the third easiest schedule, the fourth easiest, because you can't base too much off of last year. Yeah, you used last year to make predictions and the offseason to make predictions, but you really never know until they hit the field. Just like Justin Jefferson, Jalen Reagor, right? We thought, this is kind of a weird analogy, but Jalen Reagor was taken ahead of Justin Jefferson, and people, questioned him for it, the Eagles. And a lot of teams, I think Justin Jefferson was the fifth player taken off the board. He's the best receiver in the league right now. It just goes to show that you never know what's going to happen until players hit the field. Just like Brock Purdy. He was Mr. Irrelevant. 7th round pick. The last pick in the draft. Two or three other quarterbacks get hurt. He gets his chance and he shows out. And he brings the 49ers to the NFC Championship. Yeah, it's a good team, but it still takes a lot to take a leader, to be a leader, to be a quarterback, and to lead a football team to your conference championship. But you guys let me know. I don't think the Colts could win the AFC South. They have too much that they have to, too many questions they have to answer. There's just too many what ifs. What if this happens? Is Anthony Richardson ready? There's too many what ifs, and there's just too much of that. But I want you guys to let me know what you think. Thank you for tuning in to the JDW Sports Talk Show, where we find this welcome. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and the post notification bell on so you don't miss any future videos. This is JDW Sports Talk Show, signing off.